Hello, friends and family and fellow Bubba supporters. I wanted to give you guys an update on what is going on with the situation with Bubba and where he is right now. He is back with his previous, or I should say original owner, in the horrible RV in North Pole, Alaska. He came to our rescue on October 28th, and as far as we knew, he was abandoned and found in this horrible condition on the floor in the bathroom of this RV, where they had boarded up the side of the bathroom, and he was contained in this really small area in front of the toilet, in between the toilet and the shower. And I want to just go over the evidence that I have that he has been neglected, severely neglected, improperly fed, not properly housed, no heat, UVB lighting, pretty much anything that this species needs. He is a sulcata, African spurred tortoise. He was not given anything appropriate for this species as far as diet, heat, UVB. And the reason I know that is because of my experience in rescuing reptiles, caring for reptiles. I have two sulcatas currently in my care, both who came from not so great situations. I've seen this before. The deformities in his shell that we call pyramiding are a direct result of poor long-term care. Long-term, the pyramiding of the shell does not happen overnight. This tortoise, we were told by the owner herself, she's had for 15 years. She thinks it's a female. It is actually a male. And I'm going to show you the photo of the screenshot of the video when he was found the night they found him in the RV. And I'm just going to point out all the evidence that shows the severe long-term neglect and abuse this tortoise has gone through. So I'm going to try and see if I can rotate my screen. Nope, I can't. So this is a screenshot. As you can see here, this is the wall to the shower. This is the toilet, and they put up this teeny little board right here that would never keep out a normal healthy sulcata. They could either climb over or break right through that. He's 47 pounds, keep that in mind. These are very powerful animals. They are designed to dig and burrow, and they are incredibly good at it. He currently is sitting in this corner, and this video, it looks reversed, but this is actually the left side of the tortoise. So just keep in mind that that's reversed. This romaine that you see in here is not a good staple food for them. It also is a good indicator why he has the shell deformities that he does have, because this is probably the type of stuff he was fed for the majority of his life. You can see he's not eating it. He hasn't touched it. This head over here is sitting in a huge pile of waste. So he is currently stuck to the floor in his feces and waste. He cannot move. The two tortoises that we have would have this eaten in a matter of minutes. This is like sort of a treat like candy. And they get very excited when they see it. They do not waste any time. They eat it instantly. This right here, I'm assuming, is supposed to be a water dish. I'm not sure how he could possibly get his head to the bottom. If there is any water in there, which I cannot see a water line, it surely is not enough. He would also tip this over. So, but he can't move, so he can't do anything with that water dish. He can't drink it, even if he could, and he cannot eat that food. Right here on the front of the shower, you can see all those scratch marks. Those are from him getting up on his hind legs and trying to dig to get out. So at some point in time, he was not stuck to the floor. He had so much fecal matter all over him that it stained this front of this shower when he was trying to scratch and get out. I have seen this firsthand. I have seen tortoises do this. And he's trying to basically get out. I'm sure he was trying over here as well, but he is very weak. He was weak and lethargic in our care. This entire situation here, the amount of fecal matter, there was 1 to 2 inches of fecal matter, feces, waste, crud, rotting lettuce on the bottom of his shell when we got him in. That took me over an hour to clean. Over an hour, people. Over an hour. I had to sit in the tub and scrub soak, scrub, rinse, soak, scrub, rinse. I honestly thought the underside of his shell had shell rot because there was so much gunk and muck and ickiness. It was mush, and I could not get it off. I was using my fingernails to pry, scrape, rinse, repeat, pry, scrape. He had fecal matter all over his face, all over his legs. I took photos, I took videos. Once I had him in the tub, he was pretty scared. This is after about 20, 30 rinses in the tub. And him soaking, it was just so hard to get it all off. Unfortunately, I never took an underside shot of his shell because I did not want to have to tip him. He was so stressed. His eyes were barely open when we got him. The person that delivered him to us was able to deliver him with him in the back of the car, and he didn't move. The tortoise did not, all the way from North Pole, did not move in that car. I believe it went to the bathroom from the stress, and that was about it. So after soaking for a while, at first he was really nervous and kept, it was quite clear he was not used to being handled. He kept turning away from me and trying to hide his head because he just did not know what was going on. And we see this all the time with reptiles when we first get them in our care, especially when they've been abused or neglected, not handled much. His original owner is 60 years old, lives by herself in that RV, and could not possibly lift up this 47-pound tortoise, which is why he's still in that area. Not to mention he was stuck to the floor. A 40-year-old woman, very fit, could not lift him that day. They had to find someone much stronger to pry him up off the floor. So then once he realized I was a good guy and I was cleaning all that muck off of him, this was after maybe 30, 45 minutes, he eventually fully extended his head out for me to scrub all around his face with a fine, soft toothbrush. And I had to scrub all this fecal matter off his feet, off his face, from the underside of his shell. And it was really hard for him to do, but once we were jamming and we were starting to get this muck off of him, you could tell that he was really excited to be cleaned. And he tried to get up on all four legs as high as he possibly could so I could get underneath his shell and continue to scrub. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. He does not like to have his shell touched either. Once we got him all cleaned up, it was please no touchy, don't touch my shell. He fully extended, raised his body up, lifted his head and chin out for me, just as if to say, thank you, please get this crap off of me. So after about an hour, I put him back under a mercury vapor bulb, 100, I believe it's a 100-watt mercury vapor bulb. It was really late. I wanted to turn the lights off, but he wouldn't sit still. He couldn't relax. He was very scared. So I turned one heat lamp on for him because one is honestly not sufficient enough. But I turned one heat lamp on, gave him a towel, and this is what he did. He basically chilled out, took a nap, and slept. After about an hour, I turned the light off, and he never moved. And from that point on, he pretty much remained like this every day. He pretty much just sat listless under the heat lamps unless we were feeding him a treat once in a while, or he would muster up the energy to eat some hay. Because we do have two females, I wanted to show him the females because I honestly believe he's really depressed and very sad on top of not feeling well. So sometimes if you show them another member of their species, it triggers them to be like, wow, cool. I had also tested his, I ran a fecal test on him and he had no parasites, which blew my mind. And I continued to run them every once in a while because I just couldn't believe I couldn't find any parasites. But I introduced him to the females once, and he actually stood up on all four legs and started to walk around and just got a little motivation to move. Other than that, he didn't really move much at all, and he was very scared of the females, like intimidated. He wasn't being bold and curious. He was more like, oh my gosh, just kind of sitting back. So we were told, I can't remember, it was last Friday, I got a message from a trooper that the owner was back in town and this owner's wanted her animals back. I did not know this owner was even coming back, like I said, we thought this tortoise was abandoned and we were never going to hear anything from them. Although, because I didn't have much detail on the situation, I wanted to hold on to him for a while and assess. If you take an animal to a vet and have them treated and it is not your animal, you can get in big trouble for it. So fortunately, thankfully, I waited to take him to the vet. As the time progressed when we had him in our care, he started to develop noises that were coming from like deep respiratory issues. You would only hear once in a while, maybe while we would give him a bath, he'd get worked up. He doesn't like you touching his shell. If I would try and touch the back of his shell, which our females absolutely love, and they wag, when we rub their backs of their shells, he doesn't like that. So I stopped doing that, and I started just giving him baby talk and rubbing on underneath his chin, and he started to respond really well to that. And he would eventually pull his head all the way out and let me just rub and gently stroke his neck. So the longer we had him, it seemed like he just wasn't getting better. I was hoping the UVB lighting, the basking bulbs we were giving him, the proper diet, all that stuff, and the fact that he had no parasites, I was starting to get really concerned. And this was just a few days after having him, and the trooper that is involved in investigating this case finally contacted us and said, we need to give it back to the owner. And I was blown away because we weren't asked anything about his condition, his health. We weren't asked anything about where we got him, why, how, who. Just it needs to go back to its owner. And of course, I was incredibly upset, so I wasn't going to have that. And I did everything that I possibly could to delay that process, and told him that I'm really concerned because I do think the tortoise is ill, and I can't explain his behavior by it having parasites, because I've seen that before. A lethargic animal looks sick, and a lot of times it is parasites. Both of our females had them. They were riddled with worms, and we treated them for worms. They got rid of the worms, and they slowly came out of that sort of lethargic behavior and really, started moving more, and now they're like normal, healthy, functioning tortoises. So because he didn't have parasites, I figured this either has to be respiratory infection, because you could hear it in his breathing, and I don't have any video footage, and I'm kicking myself right now for not getting it. But it's one of those things you only hear once in a while. On top of that, he could possibly have a bacterial infection because of all the waste he was sitting in. So we delayed the process as long as we possibly could. I'm going to show you just a few more things, so this isn't horribly long. But when you saw him sitting in those original conditions, I told you to the left was where he could see the romaine sitting there, which is kind of torturous for these guys because he's going to be really excited and want to eat that. This is an abrasion from this point on the top of his shell, from his head being crammed up against the shower. The other side, his body was crammed where that piece of wood was, actually on the other side of his face over here. This is the only area where he could see any amount of space, and he could also see the romaine, and he kept lifting and turning, and this touches right on that point as he lifts and turns. This is pink flesh, and it takes a long time for that to develop. I know to you guys that might look small. This is after a week and a half in our care when I took these photos, so it got to heal for a week and a half. This is a direct indicator that he was stuck in the same position, looking in the same manner for a very long time. Imagine sitting there, you can burrow through any kind of terrain. You're a badass 47-pound sulcata, and you can't even help yourself to eat your favorite treat that you're staring at for God knows how long every day. And I think a lot of that darkness that you see on the floor is fecal matter and rotten lettuce that he never did get to eat. I don't even know why you would put it in there if he's stuck. So maybe the owner just never even bothered to notice that he was stuck, because when she left and went on vacation, the person she had watching the RV didn't really know her very well and was never informed that there was even a tortoise in the RV. So Bubba wasn't even important enough to inform this person that you need to take care of him the entire week I'm gone. He wasn't even mentioned to this individual. She has 17 dogs that she wanted this individual to watch. When this individual went into the bathroom to get water for those dogs, she saw the tortoise on the floor. So this is another indicator he was sitting there for a very long time. On top of the fact, you can see it there as well. On top of the fact, my awesome thriller people, that his shell has pyramiding I took pictures of the pyramiding of his shell. Like I said, that does not happen overnight. So I tried to document as much as I could. This was the day we were told we have to take this tortoise to the vet to prove that he is ill. And if he is, then he could possibly stay in our care and might prove the negligence of this owner. Unfortunately, we went to a vet. I have no idea who this person is. I do now, but at the time I thought we were seeing the vet I've seen several times before that has seen our reptiles. Unfortunately, we do not have any experienced reptile vets in the Fairbanks area. Some of them have seen reptiles, but they don't specialize in reptiles. This person at this particular vet I have never met before. I have never heard anybody I've never heard of anybody in the reptile community taking a reptile to her, and I was not under the impression that this was who we were seeing. I was under the impression we were seeing the woman I normally see. Unfortunately, she was out of the country in Norway. I show up, this veterinarian took a look at this tortoise, and in 5 minutes, with a visual inspection only, deemed him in good health. I had sent them an email with everything I just showed you guys. I sent them a copy of the email I had sent the trooper describing everything I just described to you. I have no idea if they ever read it. I was removed from the patient room while they did this visual examination, and we sat outside the room, and I tried to listen and hear as much as I possibly could. I heard her say he was thin. I heard her say the pyramiding and the shell deformity is not normal. I heard her say she couldn't hear anything with the respiratory because she's talking to the trooper. The trooper was the only one allowed to stay in there with her. So all I could gather in those short few minutes was that he was thin, his shell was not normal, and I cannot hear any signs of a respiratory infection. They came out, the trooper told me she deemed him in good health, and we were forced to give him back to the owner. So I am in contact with animal control. I did speak to an officer today. They're a little heated about this entire situation because there's only so much they can do within the laws. I do believe that the laws do cover this tortoise, that he is protected by the laws, and that everything I've shown you does prove his long-term neglect and abuse at the hands of this original owner who he is now back with. And I am waiting to hear back from another animal control officer to find out what I can do to start an investigation on the behalf of this tortoise from the end of the tortoise. The only investigation going on right now is from the original owner, who is pressing charges against the individuals who turned the dogs over to animal control. So there were 17 dogs and this tortoise all in one RV in North Pole, Alaska, removed while she was on vacation. And this was all triggered by the individual watching the animals. So thank you to that person out there that initiated all of this. Thank you to the people that took the dogs to the animal shelter. And thank you to the person that gave us this tortoise. And thankfully, I did take some video, take some photos. I have experience with these animals. I've rescued over 100 reptiles in 5 years. I've been taking care of 2 sulcatas for several years now. I know what these animals need, and anybody out there that has experience with sulcatas knows that this is tragically an awful situation for this tortoise, and he absolutely should not be back in her care. Keep in mind, in that video footage of the screenshot I showed you of where he was, no heat, no UVB lighting, no proper food. These guys are grass eaters. So he pretty much had everything going against him, which is why he has the permanent shell deformities. I will keep you all posted. I am sorry for the long video, but I am sharing a link of a petition to help basically spread awareness to this tortoise's situation. Please sign the petition. When it asks you why I'm signing it, please write why. It really helps. Say, this tortoise was not provided with proper housing. This tortoise was not provided with proper heat. The rescue had him in his care for 10 days, knows how to take care of this animal, knows what to look for in respiratory infections. We need to get him to an experienced reptile vet, somebody that knows that you have to test them to see if they have a respiratory infection, someone who understands you're not going to see mucus, you're not going to hear things all the time, you're not going to visually or audibly hear a respiratory infection. He could still have one. He may have a bacterial infection. This tortoise is going to have to live through North Pole, Alaska temperatures in an RV, on the RV floor. We get 40 below, 50 below. North Pole is like the coldest in our area. I don't think he's going to survive the winter. So I am hopeful that I can talk to animal control tomorrow and that we can proceed with an investigation on this tortoise's behalf, coming from somebody who has experience, knowledge, and proof that this tortoise has suffered long-term care and neglect. Please sign the petition. Please share the petition. And please share this with everyone you know and explain why you signed the petition. I need to find professionals that are experienced in reptile care that can explain what should have happened when he went and saw that vet to be able to deem whether or not he was healthy. I don't need you to say he's not healthy. I need a professional to say professionally, I am an experienced exotics vet. I am an experienced rescuer. I am an experienced whatever you are, whatever your PhD, your degree, if you're a veterinarian, if you're a vet tech, if you specialize in reptiles, specialize in exotics. My email is jamie@raerescue.org, RAE rescue.org, JAMIE. Please send me an email. I have got to pull together as much information supporting everything I just told you guys from professionals. I'm just a gal who rescues reptiles. It doesn't matter how much research I've done. It doesn't matter how much experience I have. I am not a veterinarian. I'm not, anybody of significance other than I'm sitting here trying to save Bubba. So I thank you for watching this if you watched it all the way through. And again, please share. Thank you.